Calibur 6. That's right, folks. I pulled a retro replay and decided to leave you hanging so I could review my favorite game of 2018. But before we get into this, a little bit of backstory. The fighting games have always held a very special place in my heart. I don't love them as much as I used to. It used to be my favorite genre of game, and excuse me, that's not the case anymore. But like I said, they still hold a very important place in my heart, and excuse me, Jesus. The reason for that is because the first game I ever owned was Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha on PS1. I don't think I should review that game at some point too. Anyway, that game was my gateway into a lot of other games like Mortal Kombat and Tekken, and of course, Soul Calibur. Now, it took me a while to get to Soul Calibur. I had seen a lot of ads for Soul Calibur 2, and it really interested me because they showed Link from The Legend of Zelda. And while I wasn't into The Legend of Zelda at the time because I hadn't played the games yet, I did play Super Smash Bros., and Link was one of my favorite characters in Smash Bros., so seeing him in another fighting game made it seem really interesting to me. Me and my mom visited some people in Illinois, where we came from, and we hit up the local arcade, and there was a Soul Calibur arcade machine, so gave that a few tries, and I liked it. And then I ended up playing the PS2 version of Soul Calibur 2 at a friend's house. Well, I ended up getting an Xbox 360, which I don't have anymore because it sucked, in my opinion. And I found Soul Calibur 4, so decided to give that a try, and I really liked that one. And then I went on to play Broken Destiny, and then 2, and then 3, and then 5, and now 6. So yeah, that's the backstory on that. Anyway, with this 3-minute intro out of the way, let's get into the fucking review, shall we? Now, for the longest time, I had heard this game was in development hell because the team was arguing over how big Ivy's boobs should be. I'm not joking. I really read an article that said that. Now, I cannot confirm nor deny whether or not this is true. I mean, they write fake articles about things all the time, but I guess it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. And considering the last game was over 5 years ago, and that was considered to be a disappointment at best by many fans, and 4 had been considered the downfall of the series, it was pretty much safe to assume the series was pretty much dead at this point. Well, miraculously, out of nowhere, Bandai Namco says they want to do something big for Soul Calibur's 20th anniversary, which led a lot of people to believe that Soul Calibur 6 might actually be coming. Sure enough, not too long later, boom. Of course, people couldn't help but be a little skeptical, considering the last 2 attempts fell somewhat flat, at least according to the vast majority. I, for one, had faith that 6 was gonna be the big revival the series needed. And now that I've gotten a chance to play it, I, for one, wasn't that disappointed. In fact, I wasn't disappointed at all. This is probably my favorite Soul Calibur game of all time. This game kinda got the Mortal Kombat treatment, where it's basically a soft reboot, which returns the series to its roots, which I feel is the best thing they could have done for this series. There's also a ton of single-player content to keep you busy. There's a story mode, which, while simplistic in nature, is surprisingly deep for fighting game standards and is definitely way better than Soul Calibur 5's story. To top that off, each character has their own individual story as well. There's also a separate campaign mode called Calibur of Souls, where you get to create your own character and play as said character and level up and stuff. Speaking of creating characters, this game probably overall has the best character creation in the entire game, and they even took a page from the Book of Elder Scrolls where you get to choose your own race, so that's pretty nice. This game's character creation is so deep, in fact, that you can make things like this, and this, and this, and... Why must you haunt me? Go back to meme hell from whence you came, demon!
Ring out! Big mistake.
Yeah, get fucked, Big Chungus. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. There are a few items from 4 and 5 missing that I kinda wish they'd kept. There's supposed to be some DLC though, so hopefully they'll add some more stuff. And I think I heard the custom equipment is supposed to be free, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. You also have a pretty standard arcade mode where you fight a series of CPU-controlled opponents until you reach the end boss, which changes depending on which difficulty you pick. And unlike 4 and 5, which were a bit slower paced than 2 and 3, 6 seems to be pretty balanced for the most part in terms of speed. There's also a power meter which you can charge up to do one of two things. You can either power yourself up to become stronger for a brief period, or you can unleash it into a massive super attack which does massive damage. And of course, this just wouldn't be a Soul Calibur game without guest characters. Out of the box, you can play as Geralt from the Witcher series, which is great for Witcher fans, and if you're willing to pay a few extra bucks for DLC, you can even play as 2B from Nier Automata, if the ability to create her wasn't enough for you. You can even use the guest character's abilities for your custom characters, which you could never do before. There's also a pretty solid selection of characters as well. 20 to start, 1 unlockable, and 2 DLC, bringing the total to 23. There's also 2 new characters, Grow and Aswell, who are both pretty fun to play as and are welcome additions to the series in my opinion. There's a few fan favorites missing, but there's still 2 characters this season yet to be announced, and I'm sure there's going to be more season passes later down the road as well. So, in a few years or so, this game is bound to have the ideal character roster. Just give it time. As is though, I think this game is pretty great, and it is easily my favorite Soul Calibur game of all time, and definitely my favorite game of this year. Now, this game is special to me for a few other reasons as well. Mainly because for the longest time this channel was going through an identity crisis. I originally went into this whole YouTube thing with the intent of being a game reviewer, but that wasn't working out for me, so I tried a whole bunch of different things, and then Soul Calibur 6 came out, and I was always a really big fan of, you know, the whole create a fighter thing, and you know, I've honed my creating skills, and even took maybe some inspiration from other people, seeing how they created characters. it's amazing what people have done with the Create a Fighter tool. That was probably the best thing about Soul Calibur 5 was the character creator, and that might even be the case here as well. And I definitely have to thank Soul Calibur 6, because if it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't have found what clicked with me, you know? I mainly make Soul Calibur 6 videos where I showcase all my silly creations. And I think that's what I'm gonna stick to for a while. The only reason I did this review, because I wanted to tell people what I really thought of this game. I don't have much more to say about it, so I guess this is where I'll end it. So, all I really have to say is... I like this game! With that said, I hope you all are having a lovely time. Have a great day, and remember, legend will never die.